Welcome back. Hello, everyone. There was a lot of darkness and there were a lot of mosquitoes. I had to stop and restart now after the electricity has come back. So going back to Raima's point that she doesn't understand why there has to be a majority over a minority. I totally agree with it. I mean that resolves it. Let's put equal amount of numbers of Israeli Jews in Israel and equal amount of Palestinian Arabs in Israel and live happily ever after. But then again, where would the surplus amount of Jewish people go to balance the non-Jewish population? Which country they should go? And then again, there is a distinction between the Arab-Palestinian identity on the basis of religion, because some of the Palestinian Arab people call themselves that they are Christians, so they are different from the Muslim Palestinian Arab population. So if we equate the amount of Palestinian Arab Christians and Palestinian Arab Muslims, then the Jews would say, well, we're all Jews and we don't have any Christian Jews, so we need more, ethnically now we are a minority, so we need equal amount of, let's say, Messianic Jews. So there you go, Raima. I mean, it's impossible to have equal amount of people in a society or a group a group of people. You cannot have equal amount of diversity in all the countries and all the societies. And I mean, look at your own DNA. You said that you have 40% Jewish ancestry. Now, if you say that 60% of your DNA is Palestinian, then again, the proportion, you have a majority Palestinian Arab DNA and a minority of a Jewish DNA. And then you would say, well, okay, I don't have a minority Palestinian Arab DNA. I actually have a 30% European DNA and 30% Palestinian Arab DNA. Then I would say that now you have a majority of Jewish DNA, which is 40%, and the two other DNAs, European and Palestinian Arab, are unequal. So you cannot, basically, the point is that we cannot have equal amount of numbers of people ethnically, and because we have multiple layers in our identity. Some people identify as religiously something else and ethnically something else, so that also adds the complexity to the problem. The second point that she highlighted was very, very important. She said at one point an individual with a Jewish background lived all over the Middle East in harmony. Totally agree with you. It couldn't be true any other way. I must add, not only Middle East, a individual Jewish background minority existed in Europe, Americas, even in Asia. In at that time it was joint India. So there was this flourishing, very contributing and very well off Jewish minority living in the subcontinent India. But guess what happened? Nobody liked this minority, and therefore they started this whole saga of World War II, where, following into the footsteps of our good old, good-looking, blonde, blue-eyed Aryan race, superior Aryan race, people decided, well, these people who live in amongst us as minorities are actually stealing our wealth. So we don't want them here. They need to go out. The Middle Eastern countries, like you mentioned, Tunisia, Morocco, and whatnot, they said also, they have been stealing our wealth also. We don't want that. We don't want this harmonious minority amongst us. They need to go. Well, luckily for the Jews, and of course unluckily for all the non-Jews and Gentiles, the Jews survived. And while the Jews survived and nearly escaped death, they were sitting on these big boats ready to enter into the US, and the US said, well, we can't allow you in because we already have a significant amount of Jewish population here. So basically, they were sitting on these boats in the cold winters in the Pacific Ocean, waiting to be accepted by any of the countries, and nobody accepted them. And then they call upon to the British and said, well, you guys had this mandate, you remember, where you need to, create two states, one for Arabs and one for the Jews. Can you please do that? Because we're sitting on these boats and we are freezing to death. And can we just have a little tiny bit of a land for ourselves to, live? So, the Jews, while the Jews were sitting there and the American Jews were trying to get them to Palestine, at that time, ironically, it was called Palestine. The Britishers were like, okay, let me think what to do. And then, thanks to Ben Gurion, he said, fuck you all. We are creating this nation called Israel and we're going to live there. And literally, that nation, which was rejected as a harmonious minority by everyone in the world, built a country in less than a century's time from scratch. Okay, fine. There were nomadic tribes, Palestinian Arab tribes who grew olive trees and whatnot. But there was no major investment either from the Ottomans or from the Arab world or from the Britishers to actually develop the land. It was those harmonious minority people who were deserted by each and every country in the Middle East built that nation called Israel from scratch, giving their blood and sweat. And people who have given their lives, like Ben Gurion and Golda Meir, I don't even have to mention them. Go watch their life stories or read their books so you will understand, my dear, that what they have gone through or been through to get Israel to where it is right now. Then you say you met this older man on a plane who has a background of Tunisia. Ancestry from Tunisia, or his ancestor used to live in Tunisia before the state of Israel was created. So he associated himself firstly and foremostly as Tunisian and then Israel. Very good. I would suggest such an old man to pack his bag, grab his family, and go start living in Tunisia. Establish a little small Chabad house there, and I might come and visit him. And after I convert, or maybe who knows, I might, if he establishes a little community there, might go and get myself converted in Tunisia. Who knows? So yeah, whoever feels like that is more than welcome to develop. But again, ask Tunisians if they want a small, harmonious Jewish minority in their country. I'm sure they won't. Anyway. So the point, and then again, the other point that Ramya makes is that why stress this dominance, especially if you do see the similarities. Very nice. I think this should have been told to all those countries in the Middle East who were kicking out these similar people who had a lot of similarities and they were harmonious minorities. But I guess those people who probably are your ancestor, my ancestor, everyone else's ancestors as well, so they didn't see those similarities when they were kicking the Jews out. Neither did Nazis, of course. They could have seen the similarities. Two eyes, one nose, ears. No, it didn't bother them that they are also human. We should. After all the prophets that the Christians and the Muslims believe. In a way, you're very right. We're a lot similar. The only difference the Christians have is that they don't believe in the Prophet Muhammad and add on Jesus Christ, and we Muslim also accept their Jesus and add on our Prophet Muhammad. So with our one individual prophets, we think that we are more, more, shall I say, inheriting the Jewish legacy. But we don't see all those, similarities when it comes to persecuting the Jews. We only are reminded of those similarities when we have to grab something from the Jews and take an advantage from them. So and by the way, this whole idea that we should not, stress on the dominance or stress on this thing because we're similar. Well, Nazis were actually trying to create a society where only Aryan races would survive. That means all the people looked similar. Blonde hairs, blue eyes, and rest of the people who were either blacks or, those gypsy people or people with disabilities, all of them should die because they're different. They have no right to live. Only people who are similar to us have the right to live. They should have blonde hairs, blue eyes, speak German, be German, eat German, believe in Christianity. So actually, the next point that you raised, that isn't it like ancient thinking and crusade? Well, they were actually like that. I mean, we Muslims and Christians who believe in this similar ideology, that's why we promulgate or promote our religious ideology. We just say the Shahada and become Muslim and be like us. And together we will go to Jannah, have 70 virgins. I love that concept. Anyway, so we all, are trying to create similarities. But you know what? The real thing and the real tolerance and real peace, not piece of cake, peace come and real harmony comes when we celebrate the differences, when we appreciate the differences. Then when we say, you do things this way, or we do it differently. And they say, wow, that's interesting. That's the kind of attitude we need. We don't have to say, we're similar. You're similar, we're similar. Give me everything you have, and because we're similar. So this is not the way it is. We shouldn't be focusing on our similarities and saying that everyone should be similar to everyone else. We should appreciate differences. We should value differences, whether it's differences of opinion, differences of genes, differences of religion. I mean, Jews have survived all this because they actually cherished their difference from the other Gentiles. They have never said that we're similar than them. We're different. That's why we don't eat pork. We eat kosher because we're different. So their idea is not we're similar. We're different and you're different and it's okay. Let's just get along. And yeah, I addressed this whole thing that it's Asian thinking. Yes, it's an Asian thing. Finding similarities and making everyone similar is actually an Asian thinking. That's why those crusaders came all the way to, Asia and Middle East to convert us to similar being as they are, whether in the name of civilization, development, or whatever. They actually didn't like diversity or differences. So all the major things which promoted people to go to far lands is to actually not find different people and embrace differences, but rather make them similar. I mean, even Alexander was one of those people who would just go explore things and this and that. But generally, we want to meet people just like us. We want them to agree with us, irrespective of whatever the hell they want to think or say. So then you go on to say that my family tested and they found 40%. Okay, 40% is not almost half, it's 40%. So now if you have 30% something else and 30% something else, or 20% something else, 20% something else, then 40% becomes a majority and the other thing becomes a minority. And if you have 60% one type of DNA, that is, I'm assuming, I don't know your DNA, so if it's 60% Palestinian Arab, then you, therefore that's the reason that you call yourself Palestinian Arab and not Jewish. So these things matter. And how can I tell you, and then you say, so how can you tell me I'm a minority? I'm not telling you you're a minority. Your DNA is telling you that you're a minority. I'm not telling you a minority. Your DNA is saying that majority of your DNA is Palestinian and minority of your DNA is Jewish. So therefore you are a Palestinian, not Jewish. And in Israel, Palestinians are minorities. So what can I do? Or what can I say? You can always convert and become the majority. I mean, I'm converting to Judaism. So yeah. So, that was about it. And then in the end, you mentioned it just doesn't make any sense and it's silly. Remember, we are cousins. Now, again, when we say remember, we're cousins, Raima, darling, what do you mean by that? Hagar was an Egyptian woman. So technically, Jewish people's cousins are actually Egyptians, not Arabs. So the people who are living in Egypt are actually Arabs, not Egyptians. Well, it was Egypt and it was conquered by Arab Muslims and it was Arabized. And by the way, you said it. I think you said it or someone else said it, that they were like Islamicized and Arabized and Islamicized. So there was this guy who said that Jewish people in Israel are all converts and the real people or real Israelites or real Jews are actually the Palestinians who were conquered and Arabized and made Muslim by the Arabs. So similar thing happened to Egypt. So the Egyptians living right now in Egypt are actually Arab Egyptians. And they are not the cousins of Jews. It was the ancient Egyptians who were neither Arab nor Muslim. They were the cousins of that. Fine, most of the Jews and Jewish rabbis agree that Ishmael, who was the son of Hagar, was the descendant of Abraham, and he basically constituted the entire Arab world. Fine. So I'm a Pakistani with a Persian and Afghani ancestry. Am I the cousin of, are we religiously as Muslims cousins of the Jews, or ethnically we are cousins of the Jews? And by the way, when our Muslim brothers don't get along with each other in the Middle East, as far as I know, Persians don't like Arabs and Arabs don't like Persians. So as a Muslim, or Islam is not our unifying factor, and we don't even tolerate each other as Muslim brothers, how would our cousin tolerate us? If I am not welcomed in my own brother's house, how can I go to my cousin and ask him, you know what, you have to give me a space in your house? He would first say, go ask your brother first. And and by the way, we're not even mahram in the Islamic context. A cousin is not even a mahram, at least in Asian context. I don't know if Arabs marry cousins or whatever. So, this whole thing that we use, this whole concept of similarity, DNA, and then this religious cousin, we are cousins, so we get this whole concept. Three of these concepts seem to me, or in my opinion, are nothing but bullshit. We desperately want to prove that we're connected to the Jewish people and we're connected to the land. Then fine, look at me. from Islam, I want to convert to Judaism. Do the same thing. Learn Hebrew, convert to Judaism, adapt that identity. Be an Israeli Jew. What's wrong with that? If similarity is important to you, if you feel that they are cousins of ours, and yeah, I mean, if you don't, if you and you say your DNA is also Jewish, then what's the big deal? Why differentiate? Why say no, 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 no? We are Arabs, and not only Arabs, we are Palestinian Arabs, which are different from Jordanian Arabs, Lebanese Arabs, and Egyptian Arabs. So this whole thing has to change. This whole attitude needs to change. Jews, when they are minorities, we have a problem with them. Jews, when they become a majority in the country that they have built from their sweat and blood, we have a problem with that. Let's just say that we're anti-Semitic, we hate Jews, and we have a problem with Jews. I'm sure if Elon Musk in a couple of years develops a colony on Mars, most or at least majority of the people of the world would say, well, there is a colony in Mars, and if Jewish people don't like it here, they can just go to Mars. And if they will go to Mars and, build a thriving society and thriving civilization there, we would have a problem. How dare they went to Mars and create a civilization there? How dare they? We are their cousins and we're similar to them. We need a place over there too. So let's just decide. Do we want a harmonious minority in our countries, or do we want this thriving nation called Israel? What exactly would be acceptable for us non-Jews, the Gentiles? And I'm not just addressing you, Raima. I'm just saying it across the board, because I don't think that there is much appreciation and acceptance of Jewish people, either when they are a minority, harmonious minority, or if they are a strong, thriving majority national identity. We just need to accept that we're anti-Semitic. Either way, we just don't like Jews. And that's why people say that anti-Israel is basically anti-Semitism, because when we were minority, you had issues. Now we are a majority and independent people, you have an issue with that. I hope, Raima, you understand that. And I'm sorry if you felt bad about my comments, but definitely your comment did affected me in a way that, this anti-Semitism has not gone yet. I mean, when people had issues with Jewish minority, now people have issues with Jewish majority. People had problems with Jews being too nice and penetrate into system and high professional achievements. Now they have a problem that why Israel has all the achievements and it's independent, it doesn't share with the world, when it does actually share with the world a lot, whether it's technology, whether it's whatnot and whatnot. So Rama, understand, we need to change our attitude towards Israel and towards the Jewish people at large, by and large. So I hope you're well, and I wish you well, and I hope you understand that. And I hope your conflict, which is the Israel-Palestine conflict, gets resolved. Because to be very honest, as long it will prolong, both the parties will lose seriousness, and the world will start to see you as, a couple which is just abusive and not happy in their marriage, but yet wants to stay in a marriage. So for me, the more time passes, I see irrelevance and stupidity coming out of both the narratives. So although I, as someone who is an aspiring Jewish convert, I do fully support the Israeli Jewish narrative of the conflict. But then again, I mean, it depends how things shape up. whatever the thing is, resolve your issues. As a Pakistani, as someone who have never been to Arab world, well, I have been to Turkey, but that's not Arab. So, someone who has, I have met Arab people, even Palestinians also, in Pakistan, but someone who is a complete stranger and outside the conflict, I wish you guys sort out your issues. So we have very good and better relations with both the parties, either Palestine and Israel. So I wish you all the best, and especially and particularly you, Raima. I wish you well as a female, as a Muslim female, and yeah, of course, as a Palestinian Arab female. I wish you guys all the well and hope you sort out your issues. Thank you.